Okay, we should be all right now. I just started recording, and yeah, sleeping baby in the background, and Joshua
Go for
is
it.
Joshua is bouncing,
Yeah.
a disembodied head just bouncing in the darkness. Yeah. All right. So, do you remember what happened last time?
Um, so last time was a very long day. Just got out of the sewers, connected with the Sleight of Hand Society, survived that encounter. Honorary members now of the Sleight of Hand Society, and made it back to the office.
Yeah. Um, do you remember some things that you discovered from the society during your expedition down into the sewers? Some things that were told to you.
I remember some things we have to do. Um, I know that we have a few places that we have to go. We need to go to Hightown. I know we need to go see a wizards at the castle.
Yeah.
Um,
And you remember that Parfinia,
Let us,
the thief
yeah,
queen, she gave you this.
right.
Yeah, the forgotten memories spell. So something
Oh, yeah, there's
that can
stuff that we
possibly
need.
yeah, something that can possibly help you relive the memory of your father and figure out exactly what happened between him and Sebastian Constantine.
Hmm. Body
Yeah.
part. We need
Yeah.
something from the family
Yeah. And you have all
from
the other stuff, and
from the pops. Yeah.
yeah, this strange spell, a remnant of Mortimer Q. Snodgrass.
Uh, it would be ironic if we exhumed uh, Pops's Pops's corpse and he wasn't actually there.
Yeah, it would be
He
quite
transferred.
ironic.
Oh,
And also another thing that happened last time, you got some new stuff. You
that's a
got some new
fear.
toys. Yeah,
Yeah.
you got a crossbow now, and Claudia got some interesting equipment as well, plus a forgery kit that might come in handy.
Yeah.
And you gave away this,
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
spatial discombobulation machine. You gave this thing away, and I believe Ramiro in the Sleight of Hand Society is fixing it up, and maybe he'll make use of it later.
Hmm.
All right. And in your discussions with Parfinia, you learned that your father was a bit of a ladies' man back in his youthful days. Um,
Yeah.
and you also learned a little bit more about the people from Neva that have filled up Tartec in recent years. And there's like a connection there maybe between Sebastian Constantine and the assassination attempt and Neva, but you're not quite sure what it is. You just know that your father was involved and something happened back in the day.
Yeah. All right.
All right, so here you are, and when last we left, you were sleeping a long night's rest after a fairly trying day, and you have fairly fitful sleep. You're tossing and turning a lot, um, and finally, you wake up and you walk downstairs, and you feel as if you are still dreaming at the moment.
Huh.
Okay? You feel as if you're still in a dream, and you have that strange sensation where you know you're dreaming and you know that you're in a dream, but you kind of can't really control exactly what's going on.
Huh.
But you are aware that you're currently still asleep. So
Okay.
you walk downstairs and you're in the middle of your office, and let me just make sure you have the ability to control yourself. Yeah. You're in your office, your crowded office, and you hear something. You hear somebody moving around. You're not exactly sure who it is, but you walk into your office, climb down the stairs, and then you see somebody that you know very well. And that person is none other than your father.
Hmm.
Your father, Mortimer LeFoe. All right? You see him pacing back and forth in the office, looking at the various utensils that he used during his time as detective, flipping through the pages of this book here, looking at the strange purple stuffed octopus that lies above the door, and musing at various scrolls and paraphernalia that lie strewn about. And you can hear him mumbling to himself and picking up books and being like, where did we get this? And then putting them back down on the ground and shaking his head.
Sounds familiar.
Yes. He hasn't seen you come down yet, so what do you want to do?
Nothing right now. Just continue watching him.
Yeah, so remember, you appear to be in a dream right now, okay? And so he continues pacing back and forth. He whirls the globe, and you can see him stopping the globe at the location of Tartec and musing on it as if he's thinking of past victories, past cases, past adventures, okay?
Hmm.
And then he finally moves up to here and is looking at these books up here, and then he sees you. He sees you standing at the foot of the stairs. And then he comes over and says, "Oh, well, Lester, it's good to see you. This is awkward for both of us, isn't it? You're asleep right now, and I'm not really here, but I'm here. And how are you?"
I'm a little confused, Pop.
Now, because it's a dream, you're not necessarily able to answer. So, tell me what you want to say first.
I wanted to say I'm confused.
Anything else?
There's a lot of things I'm learning about you that I didn't know.
Yeah. All right. So in order to speak in a dream, you actually need to will yourself to speak. So I'm going to have you make a roll. Just roll the d20, and this is going to be just a strength check to see if you can actually will yourself to speak.
Okay. Oh, that looks like all right.
An 18, very good. Yeah. So you're able to speak your mind. So you tell them that you're confused, and there's a lot of things that you've been learning about. And so Mortimer nods, and then he kind of strolls over and awkwardly takes you by the shoulder in what feels bizarre because you're not really used to your father touching you, and he kind of leads you down into the main common room area. And he says, "Yes, I understand completely, Lester. It's been, well, I see you've been paying for the sins of the father, so to speak. I've seem to have gotten you wrapped up with the after effects of one of my cases, and for that I am sorry that it had to come to this. Well, as you know, you are in a dream at the moment, and I am not entirely here. I am dead. But as far as I understand, there appears to be a way for the deceased to visit the relatives that accompany them through life, and I'm not exactly sure how much time I have with you in this odd, lucid moment, but I'll try to explain any questions that you might have. I understand that you're involved in a case with the Nevins perhaps playing a large part, and Sebastian Constantine, my old rival, also appears to be involved, and I assume that Parthenia told you everything about us, did she?
Most of it, yeah.
Most of it, and
Yeah.
well, I'll have you know, Lester, Parthenia, me and her, was a purely professional relationship, an old flame from long before I met your mother, just so we're clear.
That's what she said. You said
Indeed,
no,
and
nothing but
she never told a lie as long as I knew her. Well, and so he paces back and forth, looking a little bit unsure as to how to start his tale. He kind of gets distracted by the junk in the office, and he's like, "Oh, Lester, you haven't really done a great job of upkeep in this place, have you? Housekeeping never been one of your strong suits, has it?"
well, to be honest with you, I left it mostly the way you left it. Actually, I haven't actually moved most things.
The old man grunts and makes off a sound, and then runs his finger across the many parchments here, kind of looks at the strange newt lying on your chair sanctimoniously, and then finally comes back to you and says, "Well, how do I begin? It's very difficult for me to know how to start. I was never very good at talking about my cases, was I? All right. It begins like this. Me and Sebastian Constantine, that night when he died was a difficult night in my career. It was one of the most strange cases that I've ever experienced, and the turnout was not what I expected at all. How much do you know about magic, Lester?"
Oh, just a little bit. Can't say I'm very well versed in it.
Can't say that you're well versed in it. Well, and then suddenly you hear another voice. You say that you weren't very well versed in magic, and then from outside the door you hear another voice saying, "Well, the apple does not fall very far from the tree, does it, Mortimer?" And then the door opens, and lo and behold, someone who you also know very intimately steps out. And that person is your mother,
Huh.
Jasmine LeFoe.
Interesting.
Yes,
Family reunion.
A family reunion.
Yeah.
And right now, at this particular moment in time, you are kind of overcome with emotion because it's been an awfully long time since you saw your parents at all. And even though this isn't entirely in the flesh, you're still seeing them for the first time in what appears to be a dream. All right, what would you like to say to your mother? You're going to have to roll again to see if you can force these words out of your mouth.
Okay. Let's see here. Oh.
Roll d20, yeah. Okay, so you only roll a 7, which means that you're speechless. You're so overcome with emotion, and all you can do is kind of move over here in front of them and gaze at them dumbly, trying to make sense of this strange situation. And your mother smiles and walks up to you and puts her arm on your shoulder and then gives you an embrace and says, "It's very good to see you again, Lester. It's been a long time, hasn't it? Been a very long time since we've had the family together like this. You and me and your father, just like how it used to be when you were a boy, and you've grown into such a fine young man, Lester. I'm very proud of you. You've done a good job keeping your father's name intact." And Mortimer's like, "My name intact? He's barely solved a decent case in the time since I left him. The most he's done is save a lamb from a toilet. And that lamb currently eats up the papers in this office." Jasmine goes over to her husband and wags her finger at him and is obviously the voice of reason when it comes to your parents. And she says, Now, Mortimer, don't be too hard on your son. He is your flesh and blood, and he is now currently dealing with the fallout of one of your incidents. It's best that you tell him as much as you can so we can get back to the dream world."
Huh.
And then Mortimer shakes his head and says, "All right, where was I? I was talking about magic, wasn't I? Right, Lester, so you're not very good with magic, and I don't know if I ever really talked about this." And Jasmine says, "You didn't. you were never very keen to reveal one of your flaws. And Mortimer's like, "Pfah! Well, magic was never one of my strong suits, Lester. I tried for years to learn the ancient books of spells, but I could barely master even a simple spell to summon a ball of flame. It just escaped my grasp, and so obviously I turned to books and to investigations, the things that I was good at, the things that I excelled at." And Jasmine is like, of course. Please continue. And Mortimer paces back and forth and says, "Well, I might not have been good with magic, but I was always a lucky one, and there came a day when this happened in my early career, mind you, I saved a wizard. I saved his life, and it's a long story, I won't really get into it. But I saved a very, very strange wizard, although he preferred to be referred to as a buccaneer. And his name was J. Alsworth. I never found out what the J stood for, but I saved him. And in order to show his appreciation, he blessed me with probably the greatest gift I ever received." And then Jasmine looks at him and says, "I was the greatest gift you ever received, Mortimer. And your son, the next greatest." And Mortimer looks uncomfortable and says, "You know what I mean. This gift was a powerful blessing called a reversal spell. Do you know what that is, boy?"
Do I have to roll again to talk?
No, just,
No, I can shake my head. I'll shake my head and say no.
Yeah, you can reply to your father at the moment, but you seem unable to reply to your mother. That's what the rolls were. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. No, I don't know what it is.
And then Mortimer nods and says, "Of course you don't. The reversal spell is an enchantment that can be blessed on someone. It's a very, very powerful wizarding spell. And essentially what it does is it prevents you from being attacked by any sort of malicious magic. Alright? And this came in handy for me as a detective. If any magic user tried to use a spell against me, if they tried to throw fire at me, or if they tried to fling darkness upon me, it would bounce back and hit them instead. Do you understand, my boy?"
Okay. Yeah.
So, I was, in a sense, impervious to magic, and this served me very well through my many cases. I never had anything to fear. If someone tried to use poison spell on me, it would go back and hit them instead. But unfortunately, this reversal spell ended up causing the tragedy between me and Sebastian Constantine. And it all happened that evening when you were incapacitated due to your diarrhea affliction, and Lieutenant Stroker and I were storming the castle. A truly grand escapade it began, but unfortunately it ended darkly. And Jasmine says, "You always did get too obsessed with your cases when talking about them. Hurry, Mortimer, we don't have that much time to talk to our son." And Mortimer continues pacing and says, "Yes, well, so it all began when we were in the castle, and it was me and Stroker up against the assassins, the Neva assassins of Sebastian Constantine, and he was threatening us, telling us that we would never be able to take him alive. And then he sicked the assassins upon us and tried to flee, and I pursued him. And then suddenly you hear the hitting of a clock. Like when a clock chimes, you hear the chimes of a clock. It's like ding, 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 and it goes on for 13 times. And then Jasmine says, "Oh no, Mortimer, you wasted too much time talking. The 13th hour is almost up. We have to return to the dream world." And Mortimer says, God, well, listen, boy. Talk with William the Wizard, alright? He can help you. I understand you've gotten some kind of spell that can help you see what went on that night. And Jasmine says, "Yes, a spell from Parthenia." And she looks angry and begins to walk out the door. And then Mortimer says, "Wait! No, listen, Lester. Use the spell, and all will become apparent. Alright? Use the spell and then solve this. You'll get through. You're not what I was, but you're not all bad, I suppose. You'll be able to figure things out." And then he begins to chase your mother out the door. And as he reaches the door frame, the chimes of the clock continue. The ding, 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 ding sound. And then your father kind of starts to evaporate along with your mother. Okay? He begins to turn into kind of particles that seem to dissipate out amongst the room, and then he flat out disappears. Okay? And then your mother is about to disappear as well. And then at the last minute, she hurries up to you and gives you a hug and a kiss and says, "I believe in you, Lester. You can do this. I've always believed in you, and your father has too." And then as she finishes the words, she disappears as well. And you're left alone in the room, unsure of what to do. And then finally, the dream itself evaporates. And then the next thing you know, it's morning, and you're back in your bed. Okay? And I'm going to assume that you, after having woken up from this strange incident, stumbled downstairs in a bit of a fog. Alright? What would you like to do? It is currently 6:30 a.m. in the morning.
I think I'll go sit in my chair.
Alright. I'll move you if you want. 'Cause you're holding the baby right now, right?
Yeah. But I can't actually move my character.
Oh, you can't?
No.
That's weird.
I don't think so. Oh, now I can.
Yeah, now you can. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, move into the chair. All right. How are you feeling right now? You've just had quite a lucid dream, so to speak.
Yeah. Oh, so that was my old man, huh? I think he's what the British would call kind of a tosser.
Indeed. Yes. And he hasn't changed that much. Even though he's been dead for, the last couple of years, he's still the same old guy to randomly insult his son just for kicks, it seems. But your mother, I mean, you haven't really seen your mother like that since you were a boy. So that was nice.
That's nice.
Yeah.
All right. There's one small piece of it, small issues he didn't actually get to. He didn't actually tell us how to get any remains of him.
You wasted too much time tossing
Stroking
about.
himself.
Yeah. Well, but there is a possibility that you might see them again the next time you go to sleep. That is true.
True. Yeah, it's true.
So there is a knock on the door. What do you want to say? Come in?
Yeah, come in. Yep.
It's Claudia, bright and early.
Hi, good morning.
Morning, Lester. I couldn't really get much sleep last night. I feel like a wreck right now.
Yeah.
She's brought you lunch. She's brought you kind of egg and ham on toast that Mother Methany Ann made from next door, and nice hot mug of tea.
And some caffeine.
Yeah. So she pulls up a stool and is pulling out her lunch as well, and so you guys are kind of eating together. Claudia looks a bit groggy, and then she's also like fiddling through her hair, and she's like, "Lester, I feel like I still smell like the sewers. God, and this is after 2 baths last night, and then a shower this morning. Ugh, smell wretched, I feel. I think it might be psychological at this point."
Oh, yeah. I think I need to take a bath myself.
As you guys eat your food, Hubert, the lamb, pops out of Claudia's bag of holding and then he's like on the floor next to you guys, and Claudia tosses him a little bit of egg from her toast, and so he begins munching it in the corner. And as he munches it, he lets out a steady stream of pellets from his asshole. They just land right here. A nice stream, all in a little, all in a little lump. And Claudia's like, "No, you good-for-nothing shithead. God, you're ruining the fine upholstery of the LeFoe Detective Agency." She grabs the nearest thing to clean it up, which is like one of these long rolls of parchment nearby, and then begins shoveling it up. Neither of you are exactly sure what's on the rolls of parchment. It looks like your father's notes on an old case, maybe. cleaning up the lamb's shite with your father's shite, so to speak. So, what's on the agenda for today, Lester?
Well, I think the first thing we got to do is we have to talk about the wizards, but I want to look around this office to see if I can find anything that be any remains of my father, like strands of hair or anything like that might be useful for this spell.
Yeah. Right, where do you want to start looking?
I'm guessing maybe through his desk. I'm guessing there's probably bound to be something there inside the desk, maybe something like in his writing utensils or something like that.
Very good. All right. So you rummage through the desk in front of you. You don't really find anything aside from the old man's notes on a lot of his other cases, most of which begin with, "Today, I, the esteemed Mortimer LeFoe." He always seems to begin with that, and they usually end with, "Another great deduction, a very elementary deduction, by the esteemed Mortimer LeFoe." And he has this obnoxious way of signing his name, where he has like 1,000 different flourishes under it, and it kind of disgusts you to see your old man's handwriting.
Always good to have good feelings about the Padres. Let's see. Well,
there is one piece of parchment where your father's talking about how he helped a soldier find a misplaced sword that was covered in intricate jewels, and it ends with "and my son did absolutely nothing to help. Another good deduction and elementary investigation by the one and only Mortimer LeFoe. No thanks to my son." So yeah, a bit of a toss. A bit of a toss.
Yeah, toss. Yeah. Okay, well, let's go to maybe go to the place where he had all his scrolls and his books and stuff like that. Maybe on the bookshelf, or let's start looking there.
Sure.
We just need one thing. We need like a strand of hair. I mean, that's probably it.
Which shelf do you want to look at?
Let's look at the one the one with the most stuff on it.
So this one here.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. So I'm going to assume that you and Claudia go over and are kind of rummaging through things. Claudia has managed to clean up the poo pellets, by the way.
That sounds good.
You're rummaging through the spells. There's a lot of actually kind of elementary spell books hidden on these shelves. And you remember the old man was telling you how he was never able to learn magic. And you see what appear to be spell books for beginners stuffed into the back of the shelf. Maybe your old man at some point was trying to learn, but couldn't really grasp it. And there's lots of scribbles in the margins, nothing really useful. You do see something in particular that catches your eye, though. It's an old spell book, and the insides are actually filled with a bunch of notes and a bunch of ripped out pages from other spell books. Okay? And the subject of this spell book and all of the notes in the margins appears to be on strange side effects that can happen during the magic casting process. Okay?
Okay.
And there's one particular page that draws your eye. Do you want to pull it up?
Yeah, please. Let's do it.
You pull out this interesting page.
Ah, Shadow in the Moonlight spell. Huh. I wonder where that
Yes.
came from.
Alright, it's a page on something called the Shadow in the Moonlight spell. And it's got a picture of a strange, shadowy person on the front. And then on the back it says, while Shadow in the Moonlight is informally known as a spell, it is actually a strong side effect that often occurs by accident when an inexperienced magic user is casting an invisibility spell for the first time. If that magic user is interrupted in the casting process and does not have a proper grip on the various cosmic threads of light and darkness that allow for invisibility, these threads will be thrown out of balance. The threads of light will dissipate, but the threads of darkness will seek out the interrupter, infecting them and transforming them into a living shadow. This living shadow will shun daylight and other sources of light and will immediately begin suffering from severe anxiety, eventually falling into madness. Those who have suffered from this affliction have also exhibited cyclical behaviors, such as constantly repeating the last task they finished before becoming infected. The effects of the Shadow in the Moonlight spell, which at least appear to be partially mental, can only be broken with time and the existence of a support group, usually family or friends, who are able to keep the living shadow comfortable, subdue their anxiety, and reassure them that they are more than just a shadow, in a sense breaking the hold that the darkness has upon them. Due to the dangerous nature of this side effect, invisibility has been forbidden to be attempted by novice wizards.
It's wise advice.
Yep. And so scribbled on top of this page which describes this strange side effect of a spell, you see notes in your father's handwriting. He's circled the whole thing and he's written, "This has to be the one. This is it," on top. And that's all for the moment.
Uh-oh. That's interesting. Seems like this book is important. Maybe we should keep this book with us. Maybe we'll show it to Wally, or not Wally, to the other wizards.
Yeah. And show it to William. Maybe he might have some. He might know more about this spell. The other things in the book are not particularly interesting. There's like after effects of pretty simple spells like poison spells and
Sure.
side effects of what happens when you cast like a firebolt spell and stuff like that. But this is the most interesting page, and this one appears to have been folded down and highlighted by your old man.
Okay. Huh. But no traces of any of his remains. Sounds
No,
like.
no traces of remains, unfortunately.
Okay. Let's see. Where else can I look? Can I look on any other shelves?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you can look about. I'll tell you, you unfortunately don't really find anything. The old man doesn't seem to have kept around any locks of hair or fingernails or bits and flecks of his skin for mementos, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And you don't really have fingerprinting technology, so
Yeah. I forgot. Do I know where he's buried? I do?
So we haven't mentioned it before, but he's buried in the Tartec graveyard. Yeah.
Okay.
He's buried in the Tartec graveyard in the LeFoe family tomb, and so it's a tomb in the Tartec graveyard where your mother is buried right next to him, and your father chose to be buried in the main low town Tartec graveyard. It's kind of where the regular people and the poorer people of society are buried. A lot of the nobles in Hightown have their own private graveyards in the back of their estates. But your father was never one for that type of stuff, so he kind of got buried with the common folk, and your mother did as well.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, let's take that book and let's go see the wizards.
All right. Going off to see the wizards.
Off to see the whiz.
Alright, so it is a lovely day in Tartec. And let me just clear the map. We still have the Crimson Blade highlighted.
Fine establishment.
Fine establishment. Disgusting borscht. Alright, another bright and carefree day in Tartec, and you're off to see the wizards. So, you move past the Lura Square and past the city graveyard, which is over here. That's actually where your father is buried. And then you make your way up to the castle.
Alright.
Up to Tartec Castle. Okay? Alright, and when you get into the castle, it's still a fairly sleepy day. You get the impression that King Darian hasn't woken yet, and is currently enjoying his beauty rest. The guards and the Imperial Rangers are currently doing their morning patrols, and it's quiet, and you manage to step into the office of William the Wizard without much difficulty. Alright.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds like security is top notch.
Yeah, security in Tartec Castle has always been, yeah. Well, I mean, they did manage to get a gigolo through, and an assassin managed to climb up the walls and nearly kill the king, so there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Alright. So, here you are in William's office, alright? And William, he hasn't really noticed you come in, and in fact, he appears to be looking at what seems to be a dirty magazine on his desk. So, yeah, perhaps enjoying a little bit of the morning entertainment, so to speak. You know, an old man has to live. What would you like to do? He's merely perusing the pictures. He's not engaged in any untoward activities.
Oh, I was gonna wait for him to finish, but
merely perusing the pictures and smiling to himself.
Sounds good. Maybe just clear my throat.
All right, do it. Clear your throat. William jumps and turns around. It's like, oh, Lester and Claudia, and he hides the dirty porno mag behind his back and shoves it into a corner of his robe and says, "Oh, well, beautiful morning. Would you like for a cup of tea, some herbs, some water? Hello? Did you never learn to knock, Lester? God." And then Claudia's like, "Old man trying to have some fun at 7 a.m. in the morning. Good Lord, bit too early for that, isn't it?" And she begins looking through the shelves, and she's like, "Got any more dirty magazines around here? Thought that stuff was illegal. Does King Darian know?" And he's like, "Excuse me, haven't the foggiest notion
Claudia.
what you're talking about."
Claudia, let. It's too early for those kind of judgments, you know. You gotta do what you gotta do.
Look at you, Lester, letting an old man live. Very well. William's like, So, how can I help you?
Yeah, so sorry to disturb you, but we stopped by because we had a couple things that you might be interested in taking a look at.
Of course. What might the items be?
So these are things that one of which I found in my father's office.
You can always take a look at all the items and all the journal entries you have by clicking the journal tab up top. By the way, yeah, you can see everything just in case you lose track.
And another is a particular spell that I wonder if you could help me with.
Absolutely. And so you hand over the stuff to him. Which one do you want him to take a look on first and specifically comment on?
The scroll we got from Parthenia, the
Forgotten Memories spell, right?
The Forgotten Memories one, right? Yeah.
Alright, you hand over the Forgotten Memories spell, and he takes a gander at it, reads through it. Do you also want to give him the ingredients that Parthenia gave you?
Uh, Not yet, I guess.
Okay. So he goes through and says, "Yes, I'm familiar with this spell. It was uncovered by a wizard named... Oh, I see he signed his name. Yes, Snodgrass. Yes, I met him once on a wizarding retreat. A real idiot, that one, I must say. Has a lot of debt problems and a gambling issue and a tad of the, well, let's say he's a little addicted to the sauce, if you know what I mean, and a bit of an embarrassment to the wizarding community in some ways, but not a bad fellow. The Forgotten Memories spell, yes. From what I understand, the ingredients must be combined together along with a body part from the deceased, and then, if you want to relive the memories, you got to breathe this stuff. It's kind of a hallucinogen, but what it does is that the essence of the departed, once breathed, it has a chemical reaction with your brain and helps you envision a particular moment that you're concentrating on, a moment in the deceased's consciousness that you want to know more about. And by nature of this spell, or by nature of the magic that ties us together with our family members, you are in fact able to relive that moment through their eyes. Very interesting. I haven't tried it myself, but I've read the literature upon it. Some people are skeptical and think it just might be pure hallucination, but you never know about these spells. I think there's something to be said for this one. Snodgrass wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, but he did have a knack for uncovering interesting spells through his research, and this is one of them.
Well, we're interested in it because I would like to learn more about the night where my father tangled with that fellow, Constantine, and there's not a lot I know about that night. I may know some details, but I wasn't there. And I think it might be mixed up in this whole business that the king has gotten himself into, indirectly. I'm not entirely sure, but I think that may provide some clues as to what's going on here. And I have some of the ingredients, just not all of them. I don't have anything. I would need essentially a body part, I guess, from my father. And I spent the morning searching for some of that stuff in my father's office, but wasn't able to uncover anything, not even a strand of hair. So that part I don't know how I'm going to get. But
your father was a meticulous man. He's not the one to leave hair lying around. He never wanted to leave any ingredients around that his enemies might be able to use to cast a spell against him. Your father had a weird relationship with magic, my boy. It was got the feeling that he always wanted to learn it himself, but was never really able. And then after a certain point in his life, he started bragging about how he was impervious to magic, and I never really did find out the details about that. He never told me. But, yeah.
Well, this is a book that we found this morning, and while searching for anything, like, as I said, a strand of hair or anything that could have served to complete the ingredients list on this spell, but
right.
And then that's when I pull out the book that has the Shadow and the Moonlight spell.
All right, yes.
I noticed my father's notes here.
Yeah. And so
this particular spell mean anything to you?
Yeah, William takes a look and says, "My father wrote, 'This is the one.'" Interesting. And William peruses the page and is like, "I've heard of this before. Another side effect of that Snodgrass's work. He appears to have turned at least one person into a living shadow at some point in his life. And then he did some research on it and said that he would publish the cure. But he never really got around to it. Got sidetracked, I believe. I don't know if he wrote this particular one. Maybe he got somebody to ghostwrite it for him. He was all about that, Snodgrass. Yeah, the Shadow and the Moonlight spell, right. It's basically a powerful side effect. Truly can destroy a person, just turn them into not really invisible, but like a shadow, unnoticed by everyone and completely anxious and mad. And yeah, I've never seen it for myself, and I'm not exactly sure why your father would circle it and scribble upon it. This is not really a spell that your father would have been able to cast, you understand. Your father couldn't, he could never manage an invisibility spell. That's a fairly difficult spell, and novice wizards are prohibited from attempting it because it could backfire on them if they're interrupted. So I'm not sure why your father would have this. He certainly wasn't capable of casting an invisibility spell, and unless he lied to me and he was a great magic user and accidentally turned someone into a shadow in the moonlight himself, or maybe he was turned into a shadow in the moonlight himself, but that doesn't make sense because your father was never a shadow, even on his last days. Your father was very anxious in his final days, but that's all I really know.
Do you think it's possible that he might have turned somebody else into a shadow, not himself? Would that be possible?
Possible, but in order to do that, he would have had to cast the spell himself, correct? Because the shadow in the moonlight effect only happens when somebody interrupts the caster. But if your father was incapable of magic, he wouldn't have been able to do that.
Unless he got somebody else to help him.
Unless he got somebody else to help him, yes. I mean, do you know anything else about your father's magic capabilities, Lester? He was never very keen on telling me.
I know very little. I just know that he struggled to do even basic things. And that's about it.
Did your father ever receive blessings from great wizards?
Well, I don't know. I had a dream that maybe he might have.
Really? What did he say in this dream?
Let's see if I can remember what it was called. Something like reversal spell or something.
Reversal spell, yes, I know what that is.
I had a dream about it.
What was this dream? Your father was talking to you, right?
Yeah, he was talking to me. It was actually him and my mother were there. I don't know.
Did it seem real, or just, a mere dream?
Both. It seemed real at the time, but I could tell I was in a dream. And interestingly, I haven't seen my parents together in years, so I don't know why I would have had this dream. But we were in our office. He was going to tell me something, but then he had to go, and but he said something about a reversal spell. He said that he had saved somebody. Somebody named some buccaneer. What was the guy's name? Allsworth. J. Allsworth.
J. Allsworth. You mean the man?
That name sounds very. That name sounds really familiar.
You mean the map maker and
the map guy? That's right. Yeah. The map guy. Yeah.
The map maker. William pulls out one of the many maps that are attributed to J. Allsworth, former buccaneer. Yeah. And
I don't know why I would have thought of that.
Well, he wasn't a very good cartographer. I'm not sure if he was a better wizard or a magic user.
Yeah. That map looks rather shite, actually. Yeah, I've seen that map many times. I don't know why. That's why I thought of it. But anyway, in the dream, my father said something about getting a blessing from J. Allsworth, something reversal spell that made him impervious to magic.
William strokes his beard and says, "Interesting dream. You weren't hitting the sauce last night, were you, Lester?"
No, I did have a very long day.
Very long day. Claudia says, "Sounds a bit like an intoxicated fever dream to me. Were you drinking without me, Lester?"
Nope. No sauce.
All right, well, Williams continues stroking his beard and says, "Well, If your father received a reversal blessing from J. Alsworth, that's interesting, because that means J. Alsworth was actually a world-class magician. Reversal is a powerful spell that essentially grants the user, well, it makes them impervious, so to speak. No foul magic can touch them. If I threw a fireball at you, it would bounce back and hit me. If I tried to infect you with an instant death spell, it would bounce back and kill me instead. That's not something just any wizard can figure out, not even myself. It's delicate, and when you choose to bless someone with that, that's a great gift. Your father, if he did save this Alsworth fellow's life, well, he really got a good reward out of it, I have to say.
What happens if someone had tried to cast that invisibility spell on my father to make him disappear? And if that bounced back?
Well, the thing is, the reversal spell is powerful. It only works against foul, negative magic. The invisibility spell is not a foul or negative spell. It merely makes a caster invisible. It's not a form of attack magic, so to speak. Something needs to be attacking the person who possesses the reversal spell in order for the bounce back effect to occur, so to speak.
Even if the intent is negative?
Well, William looks again at the paper. Well, the way this works, the way an invisibility spell works, and the way this shadow in the moonlight spell works is... Oh, the baby.
The baby's up.
Baby's up?
Baby's up. No, so far, so good.
So far, so good. So William says, well, the way this works is that, alright, if somebody is casting the invisibility spell, and if they're interrupted, the person who does the interrupting gets turned into a living shadow, right?
Okay.
Yes. Now, say, if somebody with a reversal spell, for example, your father, someone with the reversal blessing, interrupted another person casting an invisibility spell, then that person who was interrupted would not get turned into a living shadow. Are you following me?
Wait, one more time?
Yeah, so if somebody with a reversal spell put upon them interrupts somebody who's casting invisibility, they won't get turned into a living shadow because they have the power of reversal upon them.
Okay.
The effect will bounce off of them and hit the person trying to become invisible.
Huh.
Yeah. So, for example, William pulls out a little bag of dust, of magical glowing dust from his palm and says, for example, I shall demonstrate. For example, let's say, Claudia, come here for a moment. And Claudia's like, sure thing. Let's say that Claudia here is in the middle of casting an invisibility spell. Alright? So, he outlines her in the dust and says, let's just assume that she is here trying to cast an invisibility spell. You follow?
Mm-hmm.
And he says, now let's assume that I barge in on her and interrupt her and screw up the casting, and she's not a very good magic user. She doesn't have a good grasp on things. Alright? You follow?
Mm-hmm.
He says, now normally, I would be turned into a shadow in a moonlight. A living shadow, so to speak, because the negative energies of the invisibility spell would hit me, okay, and latch onto me, and turn me into a living shadow. You follow?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the Fletch got rescued by Mom.
Yeah.
Mom took the baby.
Okay, I'll just relocate for a bit.
Sure.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, so
All right.
William with his magical dust is giving you a little lesson in magic at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you're following the basics, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just explain what you understand back to me, so that we can be on the same page. William says.
Okay, so Claudia is casting the spell. It is interrupted by you. Then, if Claudia is not experienced enough to be able to manage that situation, then you would actually be turned into a living shadow.
Excellent, my boy. Now, let's bring you into the equation. Say you also interrupt Claudia at the same time as me. Now, normally, you too would be turned into a living shadow, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But let's assume that you have a reversal blessing upon you, all right?
Mm-hmm.
And you see that little yellow dot next to your character?
Mm-hmm.
All right, that represents that you have the reversal blessing upon you, the power of reversal, all right? So normally, you would be turned into a living shadow, but because you have that reversal blessing, what do you think happens?
Well, I'm fine, but then the spell bounces back to, I guess, the original caster.
Exactly. So, this darkness would try to latch onto you, but then it would bounce back. Alright? It would bounce back and hit Claudia. And then she would be the one turned into a living shadow. And you would be perfectly fine. So that is essentially the way reversal works. And so, in this little scenario we've created, he points to the fairy dust diagrams that he's drawn on the ground. Both me and Claudia are living shadows right now, and you are the only one that's okay, Lester. And Claudia's like, well, that's a load of shite, ain't it? Both me and the old man destined to live our lives as shadows, and you going about diddling? Life is unfair.
Yeah, it is. I wonder, I don't know. I have a funny feeling about this one. I wonder if this is somehow related.
What do you think's going on?
I don't know.
William clears away the dust. And
I
says,
think,
William clears away the dust and says, well now, Lester, I do believe you possibly understand about as much magic as your father did. He never got much more beyond this stage.
Yeah. But I wonder if he figured out enough to put the odds in his favor. I what I'm wondering is this Constantine character's body was never found. I wonder if he was the one that was originally casting this spell, and say he was interrupted, say, by my father, and I wonder if my father knew that the spell would bounce back and hit the original caster.
Interesting, William says. Although, it would be a heck of a thing if Mortimer LeFoe had that intent. He wasn't very smart when it came to hitting the magic books. It's quite possible that's what happened, or maybe it happened by accident, or something.
He had lots of magic books, that's for sure.
Well, he did try to learn. I'll tell you something, Lester. He got most of them from me and William. Or me and Wally, sorry.
Well, if you want any of them back, you're welcome to them.
Oh, that's okay. Those are all out of date. We gave him the shit ones.
No wonder he couldn't learn anything.
Well, just because they're shit and old doesn't mean they're bad, so to speak. It's, But anyways.
Yeah, just giving you a hard time. He had a very high opinion of himself, as as I remember. So
He did
can't be good
indeed.
at everything.
He did indeed. And then um, William looks at the Forgotten Memory spell and says, and unfortunately, if you want to use this spell, you're going to have to give me one of his body parts.
Yeah, that's
I
really
think
unpleasant.
maybe a lock of hair or a piece of skin or a fingernail might suffice. Your father was embalmed, if I remember correctly, so he's still somewhat preserved, if you wish to go about it that way. Not something I would really cherish doing, but, well, there it is.
Do you think that would really work?
Well, in all my experience, yes, it seems that Snodgrass wrote down the notes fairly meticulously, and he never really made mistakes in his note-taking. His spells were all a bit crackpot, but he knew what he was doing, to some extent.
Oh. Okay. Well, he is buried in the city graveyard. No?
The city graveyard, yes, and if you do end up going there, I would watch out for Beppo the Gravedigger. There's been some. I've had a tip from Esmeralda lately that we suspect him of doing a bit of grave robbing, kind of doing a little bit more than his job description lately. So watch out for him. So
Okay.
who is Beppo? I'll show this to you. You know who this guy is. You've heard about him. Yeah. Beppo, the gravedigger and crypt keeper of the public Tartec graveyard. The nobles in Hightown usually have their own private graveyards. This place is where the common folk go for their eternal rest. Beppo's a slimy fellow who's always made me cringe a little bit. He tends to smell like rot, and there's a rumor going around that he pockets the nicer belongings on corpses for himself.
Oh, sounds like a great guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
There's a reward if you manage to find evidence of Beppo digging about. So, there's that.
Huh.
700 gold.
no.
700 gold, Lester. Could be rich again.
Yeah.
Getting money from the sewers, getting money from the graves, just rolling in the gold.
Yeah, hitting all the classy joints in this town. Claudia, was there anything else that we needed to ask the wizards? I think that was it, right? Did we cover everything?
How's King Darian doing, William? Well,
Oh, yeah.
King's not bad. He's more or less forgotten everything that happened yesterday, and the gigolo incident has been swept under the rug. Believe you know better than me that a nice down payment was distributed to Mother Methany Ann, and King Darian, he's been saying something about living a more conservative lifestyle these days. I did treat that little nick on his neck that he got from that dagger wound, and luckily there wasn't really much poison on that side of the blade, so all he really got was a scratch. It'll leave a very tiny scar, but he's already begun touching the scar as he wanders around the castle, saying things like, "This will haunt me for the remainder of my days." Very, very dramatic, and I said, "King Darian, I've gotten worse cuts while shaving." And he said, "You don't know what it's like to shave anymore. You've started growing your beard. Meanwhile, I nearly decapitated. True kings must suffer such violent attempts on their life." Ugh. He's a rough one, that King Darian. Oh, before I forget, William walks over to the chemistry set over here. I've been trying to come up with a formula that can counteract Slug's kiss. You do know that when the poison is used on someone, it can paralyze them for about 10 minutes. I've been trying to come up with the right combination of liquids and herbs so that we can create an antidote and prevent this stuff from being used. I haven't really gotten the formula right yet, but I'm working on it.
Is let me ask you, the yesterday was a very weird day. We learned about crocodiles that live in the sewers.
Right.
And yes, and we've heard that they have the ability to teleport from one place to the other with special equipment that's designed to help with that. Do you know anything about that?
Yes, the spatial discombobulation machine. William does that with his fingers. Spatial discombobulation. It's some sort of teleportation thing that... What it does is it doesn't so much make you teleport as you sort of shift from this reality temporarily into another one. Basically, you shift from this plane of existence into another plane of existence that mirrors this one, and you're able to walk around in that other plane of existence and re-emerge onto our plane within small measurements of feet. It doesn't work very far. But we reverse engineered the technology. Well, actually, it was mostly Wander's work, not so much me. But we reverse engineered after King Darian's science division found pieces of this technology on one of their expeditions. Alright, and we decided the tech doesn't work very well all the time. It's a bit unreliable. So we decided to start small, and I said, why don't we use this on our sewer workers? The men who have to clean up the dirty labyrinths beneath Tartec. Because there's a lot of passageways and rubble and gateways that have been set up there that we haven't properly explored. And if they approach rubble that they can't get past, they can merely teleport to the other side. You see how it comes in handy? So yeah. I said that was a good idea. We'll start small, because King Darian wanted us to start using it for warfare right away. And I said, we let's not put this on the battlefield just yet. We'll test it in the sewers first, and if it works good, we'll continue making improvements and put it on the battlefield. And so it was going to be a good idea, but then King Darian, he's been trying to domesticate crocodiles for the Crocodile Army project. And so his idea was to kill two birds with one stone, start the crocodiles out in the sewers to start eating away all the rats and snakes infesting the sewers. And so he said, why don't we combine these two things and have teleporting sanitation workers in the sewer with crocodiles? Not exactly my idea. Not exactly the smartest thing I've ever heard, but we did it, and yes. I don't really know if it's been very successful or not. Do you know how hard it is to domesticate a crocodile? A bit difficult.
Yeah. We found the remains of one of the leashes yesterday.
Oh, good God, William says.
Escaped.
Well, that's one more thing in the sewers for us to deal with at some point, I suppose. Thank God I'm too old and don't have to go down there and do these sorts of things.
Well, yeah. That kind of technology does seem like it would be useful. Well, thank you very much.
But we gave it away, Lester. No.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much for your help.
Not a problem, Lester. I'll continue working on this antidote here, and if I come up with something, I'll let you know.
Okay, sounds good.
Alright, what do you guys want to do?
Why don't we head back out?
Going back out to town?
Yeah.
Alright.
Back up to the town.
Head back out to town, and as you leave, Claudia turns a peek over at our wizarding friend here and gives him a wink and says, I know what you're gonna be up to now, you dirty old man, you. Alright, so you head back to town. You're back in Tartec.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
What's on the agenda?
Well, I think I have to hit the sack myself.
Okay.
But I think the next thing would be on the agenda was we had to go to Hightown and
Mm,
investigate some things there. I think the city graveyard. I can't imagine that would be possible to do by day. We may have to wait until night to do that.
right. Well,
Proper.
yeah. I mean, it's the city graveyard is also pretty. It also tends to be foggy there and
Uh-huh.
kind of under visited, so it might not matter. Um, but yeah, it really depends on what you want to do first.
Yeah. So I guess those two things. We got to get some body parts, and then we have to investigate some of those nobles' houses up there.
All right. So which one do you think you want to go to first for next time?
Uh, I don't know. Let's go to Hightown first. We've been mucking around in low activities for a while. Let's go high for a while.
Mucking about in low activities for all right. All right.
Yeah.
So Lester and Claudia head out to the more upper class parts of town, High Town, where the real estate is much more expensive. The houses are bigger, and everybody seems to wear finer dress and snub their nose at you. All right.
Mhm.
And what will you guys find in Hightown as you approach the mansions and manors and the noble houses? We will find out next time.
Next time. All
All
right.
right. Very good.
Still don't actually know if Lester managed to take a bath. He might smell.
Yes, he might still smell, which is probably not the best way to be approaching Hightown, but
Oh
yeah,
well.
we'll see. All right, excellent. Any questions?
Let's see. No, I don't think so. I think the some things I have some a couple of theories about what's going on with the pops.
Mm. Care to share, or are you keeping them close to the chest for now?
No, I mean I think he figured out a way to make it make what's his name Constantine look like he just sort of disappeared, sort of like but intentionally, so it looked like he wasn't to blame.
Pop's being pretty malicious then. Wow.
Yeah.
Pop's
I
doing
don't
some
know.
malicious activity. Wow, was that by accident or pre-planned? Wow,
I don't know.
what
We'll
dirty
see.
dealings has your father been up to?
We'll see. We'll see. I mean, it's not like he was really dealing with somebody who wanted to, he wanted to start a book club with. I mean, he started tangling with somebody who, you know, wanted to kill him. So
Yeah. You did find out that your father encountered Jay Ellsworth at some point in his life, which is interesting.
yeah,
Hearing a lot about that guy lately. And your
Jay
father's
Ellsworth.
apparently just chilling in dream world now with your mom,
Yeah,
living the
that's
good
interesting.
life.
Yeah. So I think I don't know if there's any way to call them back, but it'd be interesting to try to on the next night to try figure out if we can connect with them again.
Yeah, figure out what nefarious deeds your father was up to back in the day.
Hmm.
All right.
Various deeds. Sounds like an AC/DC song.
Pretty much, yeah. Mortimer
Yeah.
LeFoe, up to some nefarious deeds in the hood.
He hung around some nefarious folks, so I mean, some of it probably would rub off. And he wasn't exactly like an angel himself.
Not exactly.
So
Your mother was nice, though.
yeah, yeah,
And your father obviously had some good qualities because your mother stuck with him, so, hey, who knows?
yeah, yeah. Uh huh.
Alright, so we'll
Okay.
pick up next time, and I'll stop the recording now.